amount of time on this. I'm also the chair of HPERA recently. Do you want to introduce yourself, John Saul?
Yes, thanks, Andrew. Good evening, everybody. My role in this has been principally because I'm the treasurer of FECRA, which is the Federation of Cambridge Residents Associations, and FECRA was invited to send a delegate, and Wendy, who's the chair of FECRA, was unable to attend the first couple of these meetings that we were invited to. So I found myself going along and then soon became hooked. But anyway, one way or the other, you'll be aware that a number of your representatives have been present throughout the whole glorious episode.
Okay, thanks. So there's a bit of a health warning here. It's not working. So firstly, these are our personal views, and they're not the official views of HPERA and FECRA. All the views are necessary of people in the locality. And although obviously what we're saying we believe is correct and is based on our interpretation of things, there's about 100 documents possibly around this thing, which I haven't even looked at most of them. So it probably wouldn't be difficult to pick us up on things where we're a bit wrong, but hopefully in the general sense of things, you know, it gives an idea of what it's about. In the context of Cambridge having a massive growth agenda, you know, virtually doubling the size of the Cambridge area in the next 20 years. And the history of developments in Cambridge of, you know, probably being successful in commercial terms, but not in terms of serving the community as well as we would like. So I'll attempt to explain the development. So I hope you can see can you see my cursor, John, on the screen at all?
I can't at the moment. Hang on, yes I can. There's also
so
some odd thing in the middle, but I'm not sure whether that's in the middle of my page or the middle of everybody's.
Okay, right, jolly good. So what we have, the area, it's at the top of Milton Road, and it encompasses the Science Park, where the sewage works is, and the blue bit here, which is the bit around the station. This is a bit of an oversimplification, but for this purpose it will do. So in terms of population, it's going to be the size of Ealing, and that's going to be concentrated in this area to the east of Milton Road. So it's pretty big and it's very condensed and dense. So the three kind of areas, the yellow bit, roughly where the sewage works is going to be owned and controlled by the council and is mainly going to be aimed at housing. So the good thing there is that the council have a fair degree of control over what will happen, hopefully, at least in theory. Now, the science part, you're no doubt familiar with, but there's going to be a lot changing there. I mean, it looks like they're going to virtually double the amount of office space there, which is going to have a massive impact in terms of transport and creating jobs, which people will then need to have housing for those people. And then the blue bit here is the bit which is either owned or bought up by various developers like Bookrate and is being developed like crazy at the moment. And there's some fairly kind of bad things going on there, like the new station hotel, for instance. So we'll come back to that again.
Andrew, I just need to interrupt you. There's a funny block in the middle of your screen, which I can see, and raise your hands, everyone else, if you can all see it. Yeah, everyone can see a funny block in the middle of your screen, so you might want to try and get rid of it. It says, please move the window away from the shared application. Sorry to interrupt you, but it's slightly in the way of what you're pointing at.
Okay, hang on. See what I can do about that. Away from the shared application. I've never seen that before, actually. It's funny, it comes up.
Try sharing your other screen.
Hang on, I'll just redo the. yesterday. Lost my Zoom thing.
Andrew, shall I try and make you the host, the sole host? Do you think it's that?
It's because I've got. I think it's because of the format of PowerPoint that I've gone on into, which is maybe causing problems.
Okay, that won't help then.
Is that better? Can you see the slides?
We'll see the slides, Andrew, but there's still this floating rectangle which comes and goes. Perhaps while Andrew's doing that, I should just chip in a little bit of commentary. This is not a new concept. It's certainly been around for a few years. And as we go through the slides, we'll see the time when it starts to take shape. It looks like there were people agitating for it up to 8 or 9 years ago who are what we might call consultants. And we don't know who they agitated with or how they agitated, but I'd say that sometime around 2017, it started to take shape. And so what we're looking at now really is, as Andrew indicated, something that we've seen changing shape over the last 2 years, but probably a year before we got involved, that's to say 2017, it started to become what we can now start to get our heads around. So I think previously it would have been difficult for us to say with the degree of certainty that we can now what we're being asked to look at, but there is definitely quite a history to this.
Is that any better?
Getting there, but it's got green sections now.
Yeah.
There you go. It's legible.
It's looking at some things. It looks okay on my screen, so I'm not quite sure what's going on.
It might be easier if you were host.
It's okay, Andrew. Now just press on regardless. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much there, I think.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know why it's doing that. We've had that before. Okay. So those are basically the three parts to bear in mind. So as I was saying, me and John have been involved in the consultation. The first question is why is there this plan? Well, the object of the plan is to provide basically a better quality of development than we get with normal planning rules.
Is a personal.
Yeah, would we get with a normal development, or while a normal planning process. So the plan itself, the idea of a plan is a good thing, but obviously it depends what's actually in the plan. So we had a first phase of the consultation called issues and options last autumn, and we put in, myself and John and others put in feedback on that, which is on the HPERA website, where we made a lot of the points which we're going to make this evening. And we're now on the second phase, which is about the actual plan, which is roughly a 200-page document. But there are kind of abbreviations and videos about this. You should have got a leaflet through the door, although quite a lot of people didn't, which is like this leaflet here, which gives you a summary. And they're asking for feedback on it, particularly around 10 key questions that we'll come to the end. And the deadline is the 5th of October. But it would be good to try and give any sort of feedback, because we're not really getting any kind of, well, much engagement from councillors in this. And they're the people we need to actually try and get some sort of traction into getting the sort of solutions we'd like to see. So in the actual community forum, as we're saying, it went on for 2 years, and we had representatives from a lot of the residents associations, including Lillian, who's on the call, Milton Road, and people from King's Hedges. The King's Hedges, you know, had a particular point, which I think is valid, that they felt that they get the rough end of the stick. Their facilities and their green space and everything are not particularly amazingly good. There are not much in the way of opportunities for their young people, and building this kind of citadel of affluence who they'd be excluded from was not really going to kind of help at all, really. So that was a particular point some of the people there were making up. To what extent it's been taken on the board, I'm not quite sure. And obviously another point people had about was the grave sort of housing crisis in Cambridge, and how this development might help. And obviously we don't want to be seen as people, you know, who live in reasonable houses, as people being against other people, you know, having, you know, affordable houses. Now the actual scheme is actually plugging this, and they're saying, well, that there'll be 40% of affordable housing provided, and that's the claim. And I think if it did really provide a decent amount of housing, and in particular social housing, you know, we would support it. But they're kind of fairly major problems with the affordable housing thing. One is that because they're creating 20,000 jobs, 20,000 jobs means 40,000 people, as not everyone works, and they're providing housing for 18,000 people. So they're making the housing crisis like twice as bad rather than actually solving it. Another question is, will developers wriggle out of it? Because developers just have to say, well, we can't afford affordable housing, and bingo, they don't have to do it. The planners are claiming it will be different this time, and they're kind of tied down to it. And there are various kind of ideas the planners have put in to try and provide the housing for local people, but it's kind of untried to what extent they'll work. And of course, it is a market, so that doesn't help. And what is actually affordable is debatable in Cambridge terms. And of course, in the market, London commuters and overseas investors could easily outbid local people. I mean, being right next to a station which goes straight to King's Cross, you know, it's prime commuter territory, and Brookgate have often marketed houses on that basis. And last but not least, the government's about to abolish the affordable housing requirement.